Do you know that? The first in the historical backdrop of the protection contract was marked in 1346. The main client who opened the design of colorful protection, wound up noticeably noiseless motion picture performing artist Ben Turpin. Back in the mid-20s of a century ago, he guaranteed his eyes for $20,000. Face of the top model Claudia Schiffer was safeguarded at its time for $5 million. For $70 million protected his legs English footballer David Beckham and Russian vocalist Zemfira safeguarded her fingers for $170,000. The quickest, as per Guinness Book of Records, the acclaimed Irish artist's legs, of Michael Flatley, were safeguarded for $25 million. It was the first run-through of protection of voice which was the voice of Marlene Dietrich, and around then the measure of protection was remarkable as well, $1 million. Paul Stewart adulated his rough voice to $6 million, presumably not to be cured inadvertently and not to have an unadulterated voice. What's more, even in Russia in 2002 developed the voice having been protected, Nikolai Baskov marked an agreement of protection for his own voice for the measure of $2 million. The most costly protection strategy on the planet has a place with the American executive Steven Spielberg. His life was guaranteed for $1.2 billion. Renowned bazaar promoters' siblings Rinlin guaranteed the elephant and rhinoceros, the entertainers in their show, if there should arise an occurrence of death and handicap because of ailment. This is a case of judicious state of mind to its workers for business visionaries. An unconventional man chosen to swim the English Channel in a shower by being safeguarded ahead of time for £100,000. Financier tranquilly went for broke by putting just the condition that the bath deplete opening is shut by a plug. The world's biggest stogie weighing 110 kilograms and with a length of just about 4 meters was guaranteed amid introduction on one of the displays in London for £18,000 sterling, and the premium was just 50 pence. Maybe in light of the fact that, as guaranteed by the proprietor of a stogie, it must be smoked in no under 339 days. An ambitious auto salesperson from Nebraska has reported that it would pay a premium of $10,000 to any individual who, having purchased an auto from his shop in December and presented at Christmas snow secured. Obviously, he safeguarded the auto against conceivable misfortunes. For $500,000. Moreover, acted an organization, which guaranteed £1 million to any individual who could catch the beast of Lake Loch Ness. English responsibility regarding a scope of betting exercises is strong to the point that Lloyd has built up an uncommon protection strategy for protection of the business in case of expulsion of at least 2 workers, winning the national lottery. As per this approach, the safety net provider covers the costs for administrations acquired by the business to pay for enrollment organization. Various strange protections related with organizations, particularly some of them being of intriguing nature, end up plainly basic practice. There are backup plans to cover costs of the business person for review administrations, if administrative specialists all of a sudden pick business person's organization for such a check. For the development of protection in Russia contributed incredible flames. Amid the 1600s of years, Moscow was consuming from the Mongol Tatar trespassers. The most appalling flame happened in 1571, when the troops of the Crimean Khan Devlet-Gai drawn closer to the city. After him the domain of Moscow was divided, and the populace numbered scarcely 30,000 individuals. It was right now in a general public that underlying thoughts regarding pay were begun for the advantage of discharge casualties. The primary known instance of the arrangement of state help to flame casualties is related with the name of Boris Godunov. After a noteworthy fire in 1591, on his guidelines were given out for sheds with yard from assets of rental reservations of sovereign treasure equal to 5,000 rubles. In 1784, after another blast up, Moscow was isolated into 20 sections, each of which worked its own fire detachment. Nonetheless, the quantity of flames was as yet huge, and they brought about tremendous misfortunes. In this way, in 1786, under the State Loan Bank in the 2 capitals of the domain were set up insurance expeditions, which was the start of the protection exercises in Russia. One of the Russian insurance agencies guaranteed in summer 2006, a race on heels. Members, in 4 Russian urban communities, needed to cover the separation of 100 meters at a speed on shoes with a heel of no less than 9 inches. Normal practice is to cover the conceivable results of various types of shows and attractions. For instance, in the Lloyd the main supersonic auto was safeguarded. The arrangement included scope of all dangers amid transportation of the bolide to Nevada and keeping in mind that it is the proving ground and additionally the pilot's protection against mischances. Strangely, the protection connected just to the auto with the motor off. Subsequently, the safety net provider won't acknowledge risk for floor tests with abundant speed. Russian competitors in Nagano and the members of the World Youth Olympic Games were guaranteed by both local and remote insurance agencies. South African performer Carrie Mrs. Wallace, constrained for shootings in the film Star Trek to have a shaved bare hairstyle, and guaranteed against the way that her hair after this method won't develop.